Good morning. Today we are going to see about carbonate group of remedies. Carbonate plays a massive role in our daily routines because of their unique chemical properties, especially their ability to neutralize acids and form stable structure. You encounter them in kitchen, bathroom and even in your car. Here are the most common practical uses of carbonates in day-to-day life. In the kitchen and food preparation, baking soda, sodium bicarbonate. This is a stable alleviating agent when reacts with acidic ingredients like vinegar or buttermilk. It releases carbon dioxide gas, causing dough and batter to rise. Baking powder, a mixture of sodium bicarbonate and a dry acid. It activates when wet or heated, making cakes and breads fluffy. Washing produce. A soak in water mixed with a little sodium bicarbonate is highly effective at removing pesticide residues from fruits and vegetables. Personal care and hygiene. Toothpaste, calcium carbonate. It acts as a mild abrasive to gently polish teeth, remove plaque, and clean away surface stains without damaging enamel. Antacids, calcium carbonate, magnesium carbonate. Over-the-counter chewable tablets use these carbonates to quickly neutralize excess stomach acid, providing relief from heartburn and indigestion. Deodorants. Sodium bicarbonate is frequently used in natural deodorant to neutralize acidic odor-causing bacteria under the arms. Household cleaning and laundry. Washing soda, sodium carbonate, used to boost laundry detergents. It binds to minerals in hot water like calcium and magnesium, softening the water to the detergent so the detergent can clean clothes more efficiently. Scouring and deodorizing. Sodium bicarbonate is a gentle abrasive used to scrub sinks, countertops, and ovens without scratching. It also absorbs foul odors in refrigerator and carpets. Home construction and environment. Limestone and marble, calcium carbonate. These natural stones are used for kitchen countertops, flooring, and building facades. Chalk, school chalk and gymnastic grip chalk are made of calcium carbonate and magnesium carbonate to absorb moisture and provide friction. Water treatment. Calcium carbonate is added to acidic water supplies to raise the pH level, preventing the water from corroding plumbing pipes. The most advanced and modern day uses of carbonates in daily life include the following: high performance electronics and electrical vehicles. Lithium carbonate Li2CO3. This white salt serves as the critical precursor for manufacturing lithium ion batteries. It is used to refine the lithium powder required for high capacity cathodes, powering everything from smartphones to your electric vehicle. Liquid electrolytes. Linear and cyclic carbonates such as ethylene carbonate and dimethylene carbonate are used as a high permeatively solvent inside battery electrolytes, allowing lithium ions to transfer efficiently between electrodes. Zinc and barium carbonates. These materials are deployed in advanced electroceramics, semiconductors, and multi-layered ceramic capacitors, found inside modern microchips to regulate electrical charges. Carbon captures and upcycled materials, Carbotech. Mineral carbonation. Climate tech companies now use accelerated carbonation to capture carbon dioxide emissions directly from the air or factories. They react the gas with calcium or magnesium to turn it into solid carbonate materials in minutes. Carbon negative building materials. These synthetic carbonates are transformed into sustainable carbon negative plasterboard, concrete blocks, and precast pavers. This locks away greenhouse gases for centuries inside everyday infrastructure. Upcycled consumers goods. Captured carbon is actively being turned into polycarbonates, advanced plastics used to manufacture phone cases, durable furniture, and lightweight automotive parts. Biomedicine and smart pharmaceuticals. Nanoparticles, drug delivery, nanocrystalline calcium carbonate engineered into biocompatible pH sensitive nanocarriers. Because cancer tumors and inflamed tissues are slightly acidic, these carbonate nanoparticles dissolve perfectly at the target site, releasing smart therapeutics precisely where needed. Advanced bone grafting. Synthetic porous carbonate substitute hydroxyapatite mimics the exact mineral structure of human bones. Surgeons use it as a highly advanced biological scaffold to accelerate bone regeneration and healing after severe fracture. Smart glass and display technologies. Sodium bicarbonate, soda ash. Modern chemistry utilizes ultrapure sodium carbonate to lower the melting points of silica during glass production. This process is crucial for crafting the aluminosilicate glass found on durable smartphone screens and smartwatches faces and efficiency solar panel coating. Based on Rajan Shankaran's concept, structural stability and sensation. In Shankaran's method, mineral remedies are defined by structure. The rows of periodic table represents the development of the structure while the columns dictate its level of completeness. Carbonates belong to row 3, which corresponds to the fetal development stage, specifically the descent into the birth canal. The vital sensation of row 2 is a feeling of being tightly bound, constricted and having an unformed or fragile identity. When carbonate acts as an anion, it introduces a deep existential anxiety regarding one's basic stability and right to exist. The cation indicates where the individual looks for security. Calcarea carbonica, calcium carbonate, placed in row 4, the need for security, health and protection. The Shankaran score is a profound lack of inner defense. The individual seeks absolute protection, creating a rigid shell because they feel completely incapable of defending their own structure against external threats. Calicarbonicum, potassium carbonate, also in row 4, but at the very beginning of the row, the structure is totally dependent on a rigid support system. They pin their entire sense of security on a deterministic framework, usually the family, an institution, or a strict set of rules. Without this, they feel they will collapse. Natrium carbonate, sodium carbonate, placed in row 3, the development of the identity, choice, and one-on-one relationships. Natrium has sensation of complete lack of structure within relationships. They feel fundamentally alone, separate, and vulnerable to rejection, causing them to withdraw into a private world. Baryta carbonica. Barium carbonate, placed in row 6, the weight of high responsibility, power and leadership. The sensation here is a total incapacity to handle this heavy weight. They feel completely incompetent to face the adult world, resulting in a retreat into an emotionally or mentally stunned state of childish dependence. Ammonium carbonicum, ammonium carbonate. Ammonium is a compound cation that behaves with explosive intensity. The sensation mimics a sudden claustrophobic shock like oxygen deprivation or an immediate life and death struggle in the birth canal. They are frantic, raw, panic regarding immediate survival. Magnesium carbonate, placed in row 3, relationship and emotional nourishment. The core sensation is that of being an orphan, unwanted, neglected or cast out. Because they feel they lack the structural right to stand up for themselves, they swallow their aggression to maintain peace. Zincum carbonicum, zinc carbonate, placed past the peak of row 4. The sensation is that their security is under active, non-stop attack. This creates a frantic, hyper-alert state where the nervous system overfires, manifesting a relentless physical phasing or twitching to keep the structure from failing. John Scalton's element theory. Scalton looks at the periodic table as a journey divided into series, rows and stages columns. Carbon belongs to the carbon series row 2, which is entirely about individuality, self-worth and existence. It asks, who am I? Do I have value? Carbonate anion brings an underlying crisis of self-worth or identity to the metallic cation. Calcarea carbonica. Row 4, ferrum series, work, duty, protection. Stage 2, observing shyness, vulnerability. They are passively looking at the world, too timid to step out. Their self-worth carbon is entirely tied to feeling safe, lending to a massive fear of being observed or judged. Cali carbonicum, row 4, ferrum series, stage 1, beginning impulsive. They blindly throw themselves into a structure. Their identity is completely swallowed by duty, order, and rigid group dogmas. They do not know who they are outside of their responsibilities. Natrum carbonicum, row 3, silicum series, relationship, family, communication. Stage 1. They are at the very beginning of connecting with the others. Their self-worth carbon is desperately attached to a single partner or family members, making them incredibly fragile If that connection is broken, Beretta Carbonica, row 6 Gold Series leadership power plus stage 2. They see the massive responsibility of the Gold Series but feel entirely paralyzed by it. Their identity is completely stunned, leading them to hide from power because they believe they are fundamentally useless or inadequate. Ammonium carbonicum. Ammonium represents a compound of nitrogen, congestion, restriction, and hydrogen incarnation. When paired with carbon, it creates a highly volatile state where the individual's self-worth is suffocated, causing a desperate, angry struggle to break free and assert their identity. Magnesium carbonicum, row 3 silicon series plus stage 2. They observe relationship but are terrified of conflict. Their self-worth, that is carbon, is completely denied or sacrificed. They erase their own identity and opinions just to keep the peace and prevent abandonment. Zincum carbonicum, row 4, ferrum series plus stage 12, overshooting reputation decay. The structure is slipping away. Their identity, that is carbon, is tied to hyper performance. They feel they must work, repeat, and over-exert themselves endlessly just to prove they still have value. Entangling physics, dimensionality, and evolutionary consciousness. To truly understand carbonates, we must weave together the laws of thermodynamics, quantum mechanics, and evolutionary expansion of human consciousness, the dimensional transition from wave to particle. In physics, carbonate represents a specific geometric crystallization, a flat, trigonal planar layout. In the language of dimension, the first row of periodic table, hydrogen, helium, represent one dimension quantum wave function, boundless, unlocalized, and purely energetic. Row 2, the carbon series forces a phase transition. It is the boundary line where energy is forced to collapse into a three-dimensional coordinate system. Carbonate acts as the physical lattice that traps formless potential, giving its length, width, depth, mass, and inertia. The evolutionary mirror, the birth of the ego. This physical collapse perfectly mirrors the evolutionary theory of consciousness. In early evolution, life exists in an unfilled ocean-like state of oneness, the hydrogen phase. The carbonate phase represents the terrifying evolutionary leap where the individual's ego awakens and separates from the collective whole. It is the birth of I am me and you are not me. When we untangle these two concepts across the listed salts, we see a spectrum of how consciousness manages the stress of existing in a physical dense dimension. The unstable genesis, natrum and magnesium carb. In physics, sodium ion easily sheds its single outer electron, while magnesium forms a highly porous lightweight carbonate matrix. These structures lack heavy physical reinforcement. This represents the primitive ego just emerging from the collective ocean. It is incredibly raw and sensitive to its environment because three-dimensional boundaries are thin and porous. It experiences intense anxiety about being abandoned or left entirely alone in the void. The rigid shielding of Kali and calcarea carb. Potassium ion and calcium ion create highly organized locked ionic grids and dense crystalline geometrics like limestone and calcite. This energy is seeking maximum spatial stabilization to resist external kinetic force. The ego realizes it is separate and becomes terrified of its own fragility. To survive, it builds massive defensive structure. Culturally, this is the evolution of fortress, the rigid tribal law, and the strict social hierarchy designed to keep chaos out. The hyperkinetic friction, zincum carb. Zinc sits at the end of the transition metals where its d orbital is completely packed with electrons. It represents a system under intense electronic pressure, internal friction. This is the hyper-advanced industrial stage of consciousness. The ego is completely trapped in its three-dimensional material identity, frantically overfiring and repeating routines to keep its complex world from breaking down. The volatile sublimation, ammonium carb. Ammonium carbonate is chemically unstable, easily breaking apart into ammonia and carbon dioxide gases. It represents sublimation phase transition, energy actively tearing apart its own three-dimensional physical geometry to escape back into a formless state. The ego experiences acute claustrophobia within the physical body. It represents a biological shock wave desperately fighting against the suffocating constraints of dense matter. The gravitational collapse by Pareta Carp. Barium ion is a massive, incredibly heavy alkaline earth material. The dimensional concept here is a gravitational collapse under extreme density. The energy is so bogged down by mass that kinetic movement freezes. This is the final decay or regression of consciousness. The ego is overwhelmed by the sheer weight of the material plane, unable to process or handle the complex structure it has built. It surrenders its independency and reverts to a primitive, totally dependent state. That's all for today. Let's see tomorrow.